Hi everyone, my name is CamiLee Downey. I am a senior double majoring in PR and communication studies, and today I'll be y'all's moderator on a panel about how has technology changed the fan experience. So to start off introducing our three wonderful panelists, we'll start with Taryn Fink. She is the manager of event marketing for the Southeast region of NASCAR. She is based at the Talladega Superspeedway, and she started at the University of Florida in 2003, where she fell in love with sports of all kinds. She received her JD at Nova Southeastern University and graduated with her master's in sports management from Alabama. Since then, she has been in sports marketing for nearly 5 years, having previously worked for the Birmingham Barons and the Hoover Met Complex. Next, we have Chad Goebert, the assistant professor at Kennesaw State University. He is an assistant professor at the Department of Exercise Science and Sport Management, and his research interests include technology and innovation in sport with a focus on immersive technologies in sport marketing. And last, I would like to introduce you all to Alex Kopilow. He is an account director of social media sales at the Arena Group and the creator of SpawnCon Sports, which is a newsletter devoted to sponsored content strategy in the sports industry. He spent over 12 years in content development. Since 2021, he has worked in sports, specializing in digital partnerships for the Chicago White Sox, the New York Knicks, and the New York Rangers. Before that, he focused on digital marketing, leading strategy for national and international campaigns for brands such as McDonald's, the McDonald's All-American Games, Cardinal Health, Walmart, Ulta Beauty, and the Big Ten Conference. So as an opening question to you all, we know that technology is seamlessly incorporated into several aspects of our daily lives, and this is becoming more apparent when it comes to the fan experience in sports and entertainment. Whether it's operational improvements that make customer service more efficient or the use of digital and interactive media to give fans a unique experience, the advancements in technology will continue to increase and improve. What do you believe is the biggest tech advancement in advancing the fan experience in sports?
Yeah, I'll get started. I think it's the smartphone. I mean, it's completely changed the way we interact with sports. It's everything from when you buy your tickets, when you're buying food, how you interact with the team, and has even really expanded into the social space, right? I mean, I remember growing up and watching SportsCenter with my dad every single morning to catch up on sports. And now you get sports in your pocket. You have highlights of every team, every player, and it's completely changed fandom as we know it. You know, a lot more people are rooting for players over rooting for teams. And now in that social space, on your phone, athletes can control the narrative. So they can go and they can have these athlete-driven podcasts, they can create their own communities, and it's really changed the way that people are being fans in the industry.
I totally agree. I think just having access to literally every piece of information you could possibly imagine at your fingertips at all times is completely altered the way that we do everything related to sports. I mean, even as much as you can check the weather and then make a split decision on whether you're going to buy tickets to a baseball game or a NASCAR race, just based on what you're seeing right there. Everything's tied together so seamlessly because you have access to so many different types of information all at once. So, you know, as Alex was saying, just the athletes controlling the narrative, being able to see them on social constantly, being able to purchase tickets, just everything is right there all the time. You're never really off, and you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and anything that you're interested in, you can find out about. So,
yeah, for sure. I think choice and driving choice through technology. So specifically, I look at a lot of augmented reality technology and sport broadcasts. And so never before have people had, and we talked about it a little bit at lunch, never before have people had the opportunity to choose their own adventure when it comes to like broadcast or watching sport or something like that. And so now you can watch Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird talk about college basketball while a game's going on. You can watch the Manning brothers in their broadcast. You can watch through what kind of graphics you want to watch through. So we had the Super Bowl, and you had a SpongeBob SquarePants broadcast, and some people think it's silly, but maybe it's not for them. 1.75 million average viewers across that broadcast, and those were not viewers that took away from the main broadcast. So kind of having a choice of like, hey, how do I want to view this game and through what way do I want to view this game? So I think broadcast technology and choice in that way is a really big one.
Yeah, and we even saw recently, I mean, on the women's sports side, like there was a Caitlin Clark cam on TikTok Live that Fox launched like a few weeks ago. So like any way you want to watch sports, there's a niche and a community for it. I don't even really like to use the word niche at this point. I feel like, especially with the kind of rise of TikTok, it's just like people are discovering communities in all different ways that you can watch sports.
Absolutely. Okay, so this question is for you, Taryn, but also you two are welcome to weigh in. So given your experience in event management and marketing, how do you think technology is specifically enhancing the fan experience at events, and what can be done to continually improve the experience?
So working in NASCAR, something that we're using now is the NASCAR Tracks app. And what that does is it allows you to select your favorite track, whether you're attending a race at a track or just that you like racing at that particular track. And it will give you every piece of information you could possibly imagine related to any upcoming events that are taking place there. And while you're on property, it will send you push notifications about what events are coming up, what driver appearances, any activations that are unique for the event. It just gives you an opportunity to know everything that's going on that you would be interested in without having to go and seek out that information just by selecting, this is my favorite track. And we also utilize SMS messaging to push out similar updates as well. So it doesn't even have to be new and novel technologies. It's just about using them really effectively to make the fan experience easier and more accessible to everyone. So if you're attending an event and you're a parent and you've got kids with you and you want to give them the best possible experience, not having to track down every single thing that you're interested in, you can select what drivers you like and it will send you notifications that their appearance is coming up. So being able to just have that seamless opportunity that will pull up the map of how to get to wherever it is on property, it really just enhances the fan experience. And a lot of leagues are utilizing something like that. So I think it's just making it easier for everyone because you don't necessarily have to plan out your day before you get there because you know when you get there, you're going to get all of the information on site. You don't have to track down a fan guide. You don't have to ask somebody at an information booth. It's all just right there in the palm of your hand. So I think just accessibility and the ease of being able to do anything at an event is massively changed by virtue of the phone and having access to that. So.
And it's so important, right? Like you think about, especially the way the economy is right now, to spend the hundreds of dollars to go to a sporting event. It's like, do I $500 want to go to a NASCAR race or an F1 race and get myself in the door? So I should be able to find all the different kinds of food and see the menu and see everything I want to do beforehand, order to my seat. I want to be able to track how many games I've been to and have a loyalty program. Like the user experience has to be that much better because if you're going to invest that much in the team, like it needs to be worth your time.
Yeah, and building off of what both of them have said, it goes back to the personalization and the customization. Like you and I might go to the same sporting event and have completely different experiences, right? I'm going to experience it in the way I want to experience. You're going to experience it, and we could be at the same sporting event and be talking about 10 different things that we did and 10 different things that are taking place. And a lot of that is because of things like Taryn was talking about, where there's app specific. The Tottenham Hotspur app literally gives you directions to the stadium, gives you ordering inside the stadium, wayfinding around the stadium. So there's a bunch of different apps like this that once they're like an all-inclusive app. So like once you are in, just like the app you were speaking about, once you're in, you don't have to go other places. You don't have to see things. If I walked into Bryant-Dennis Stadium, and I have to be careful saying this, I've never been there before. If I walked in there and I had tickets, right, and I wanted to find out where my tickets are, now there's apps where you can literally hold up a phone and it'll say, this is section this is section this, as it scans across, wayfinding, helping me find those locations. Where are the bathrooms? Where are the concessions? And those things that we think of as small things, but really make the entire in-venue experience. And I think a lot of it is stolen from what like Disney parks do. Like Disney parks, there's no lines, right? Even though you're standing in lines all day, but there's experiences in the lines. There are games you can play. There are things you can do to distract you from the fact that like I'm waiting in a line with a bunch of other people. We can do the same things in sporting event places. And I think a lot of people have done those things where it's an experience even if you're waiting in a line or even if there's something else going on.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, it's not just like fan experience, it's also fan engagement, you know, acknowledging the fact that we all watch sports with two screens. You're watching with your phone and you're watching, you know, the actual sport, or you're just watching live in person. So the Chicago Bulls have an activation at heading into the third quarter. They have a Dunkin' race, and there's something going on the Jumbotron, and you get your character and they're racing around, and you have to scan a QR code. You can pick who you think's going to win, and then whoever wins, you get a free Dunkin' coffee after it's delivered right to your phone. I think it's the Toronto Maple Leafs just introduced an even better version of that. It's called Rink Racer. You scan a QR code on the Jumbotron, and then they project a race on the ice, and you can watch it happen to win prizes. So using it as a way to keep your fans engaged is also super important too.
Something that Alex said earlier, talking about making an investment to attend a sporting event. One of the earlier panels spoke about fans feeling a sense of entitlement. And if you're going to invest your time and money to attend a sporting event, sports are not cheap now. You should, I think, almost feel entitled to have your event day be as easy as possible. You want to be able to have all of the information as quickly as possible whenever you need it. You shouldn't have to seek it out. If you're spending hundreds of dollars, you're traveling several hours to go somewhere, it shouldn't be a difficult process to get information, whether it's in the lead up or while you're there. So there is some sense of entitlement, but technology, I think, is allowing us to have that sense of entitlement met because we have everything at our fingertips. And to Chad's point, you know, in NASCAR in particular, it certainly has a reputation for being very redneck, very raunchy, rowdy, debaucherous. And at Talladega, there is certainly a lot of that. However, we also offer a lot of family-friendly options in everything from your race day activities to your campsites, all of that. So to be able to have an app that provides you all of the information on specifically what your needs are, that you can tailor your event before you get there to exactly what you need, is something that is almost a must. Like, sports teams and leagues have to provide that now, or fans are just going to watch it at home where they don't have to wait in line, they don't have to pay for food, they don't have to wait to go to a dirty bathroom. So, yeah.
You're competing for people's attention, and never in the history of time has there been more competition for people's attention, and they don't have to go somewhere that takes them a long time to go there or potentially be uncomfortable. And so how do you kind of eliminate those pain points before they become a problem? So yeah, I agree.
Okay, thank you. So this next question is first for you, Alex. So technology is also changing how teams and other organizations market to their fans. New social media outlets obviously provide new opportunities, but we're also seeing video games, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence being used as well. What are some interesting ways you see technology being used to market to new and existing fans, either by the Arena Group or other organizations?
Yeah, I think the biggest change is that the front line for sports teams and organizations is social media. That's how you're reaching people. It's not just the game, but that is your front line of defense. There has never been a better time than right now in being able to reach new audiences through social media. You think about it now, the effect of TikTok has been every other social channel is now a For You feed. It's not being used where you're on social media to follow your friends, in most cases. You're being exposed to people you don't follow who maybe resonate in what they also share a passion for. So when you're talking Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and now even Twitter, I mean, it's all suggested posts for you based on your passions and how you interact on those platforms. So you're reaching new audiences and really tapping into that. There's never been a better time. So you have entertainment, education, or an emotional connection. That's how it's going to resonate. And you need great content to do that. You can't just post anything. But that's why we're seeing a ton of success in the podcast space, especially with athletes. I mean, I haven't listened to one single episode of Mookie Betts' podcast that he launched with a Bleacher Report, but I saw every single episode on TikTok. So that's been huge. And then the advent of the collaboration tool on Instagram. I mean, you see every single team doing that. They're collabing with players, other local teams, other organizations. I mean, that just extends reach to a whole bunch of other audiences, and that's how you bring more fans in.
So piggybacking off of that, as far as the collaboration tool, that's huge in NASCAR, because if you're not familiar, I did see a girl walk in with a Napa jacket, so I'm sure she understands all of the details with sponsorship. So NASCAR has very strong brand identity through the sponsors of the drivers. And when you can collaborate with your sponsors on social media posts, and that's true of whether you're a driver, a team, or at the track level like myself, you have the ability to basically cross-promote to each other's audiences. So in smaller sponsors' cases, that's getting them in front of so many eyes, even if it's not necessarily at that particular track that they're racing at. If you're collaborating with them on social, you're still going to extend. So it's the eyeballs at the track, and then it's eyeballs away from the track as well. So that's huge. And we are also given the opportunity to be in front of audiences that know nothing about NASCAR, don't care, don't want to necessarily know. But the more they see, the more intriguing it becomes. And then you kind of want to expand your knowledge, maybe at least see what it is. And that's how you get new fans.
Yeah, and to go off of both of what you said, I do different assignments in my class because I have an awesome opportunity to be in front of 18 to 26-year-olds on a pretty regular basis, and so I get to hear what they talk about. So I do an assignment where I talk about, like, hey, how do you consume your sport? Where do you consume your sport? And social medias come up in a bunch of different social medias, and then podcasts come up. I learned about Podcast P through that. Like, there's so many different podcasts that are happening. But back to the question too, you mentioned artificial intelligence. One of the things I'm on a study right now, and we're dealing with chatbots in sports and how those are working on sport websites. And a lot of times the first time we interact with a sport property is going to be on their website, whether we're going to go to their game or do something like that. And so now a lot of these professional sports organizations have built chatbots, which are artificially intelligence powered, to be the first line of interaction. And a lot of them can take you from first interaction to point of sale now. So the ones we're working with, you can literally buy tickets and never talk to a person. You can get in a chat bot from, hey, I want tickets to this game, what's going on there? And so artificial intelligence is also like continuing the theme of like being able to decide things on your own or create your own thing. Artificial intelligence has allowed that to happen. And so these chat bots are happening where I can go on a website for the Tampa Bay Rays, never interact with the human being, and I can get parking directions, I can get a map, I can get tickets, and it'll send them to me, and I'm done. And so, like, artificial intelligence, I think, is really going to be a big thing as we figure out the best way for these organizations to leverage, like, large language models and those kind of things, and how it fits and the dangers of those things. But I think that's another way that kind of you can customize the experience too.
And it's creating efficiencies.
Yeah, for sure.
It's also interesting in different types of applications. We were actually talking about this at lunch, that during qualifying for NASCAR, they utilize what's called the ghost car. And it's literally the actual cars on track, and then they have a grayed out car that is also going around the track, and it shows how far ahead or behind the first person in qualifying is versus who's currently on the track. And I think if you're somebody who is new to a sport, may not necessarily understand how the whole process works, having something like that that's a really great visual tool can be educational for helping someone who may not have any friends who are into the sport. So how do I learn about it? I don't even know what to Google. So if I turn this on and it's like, okay, well, this is the benchmark. This is the person who's currently in the pole position for qualifying, which is this person who will start in first place. And I see the car that's actually on track is way far back. That helps you really understand the time differential, the speed differential, all of that. And it just gives you a tool that you may not have even thought would be helpful. So it can be utilized in really massive ways with chatbots and being able to just, you know, like you said, assume issues before they even arise and just help from the beginning. And then they're just also kind of neat, unique tools that you can utilize in other ways for the fans.
Yeah, I think we've talked about AI. The buzzword a year before that was Web3. We're starting to see a shift on that front. I think everybody went Web3. You could have seen every single sports team, every single organization trying to shove NFTs down your throat. Nobody wants them anymore. But teams are finding better ways to use Web3. So the St. Louis Blues recently had a contest to win tickets to their next year's outdoor game. But what they did is they used the blockchain to have you sign up and register for that contest. And so now there's a personal ID linked to your account, and they can now personalize that data and your experience into their loyalty program for the future. So they're starting to use the blockchain to help make that experience better, and they launched it right there. So that was huge. And the Sacramento Kings also do a really great job with that. They have a loyalty program built into their app that's all about behavior. You don't have to go to the stadium. You don't have to spend with them. It's also interacting with their content, with their partner surveys. It's really trying to say, like, hey, you might not have attended our event. I know in F1, only 1% of fans actually go to the races. It's how do you interact, and you can be a fan in more than one way.
Absolutely. So for Chad, how is our academic research showing us the impact of these new technologies on the fan experience? And for Taryn and Alex, what more do we need to learn or investigate as scholars to better help the sports industry understand how to use technology with fans to enhance their experiences?
Yeah, so from the academic side, it's a really great time, and this also from the industry side. There's never been more data available in a lot of different areas of sport than there is now, and so figuring out what matters to the industry. And so when I partner with industry partners to do research into the technology they're using or things like that, one of the first questions I say is, like, what questions do you have that you don't have answers to? Because they're busy. Like, industry people are moving quickly. They can't always answer every single question they want to answer. They have to see, like, hey, we got to roll this out. We have an event. We have things going on. And so if I can come alongside and they say, hey, we don't really know the answer to this, and I can say, oh, you know what? We can help you with that, or we can come up with those answers and see those things. And so for us, when we worked with our augmented reality partners who were using augmented reality, either in apps or in broadcast technology, we did research and we found that, like, there was a few things that were really important. You know, visual appeal is really important. Like, don't run out something clunky that doesn't look good. It matters how things look, and people will sometimes be in a hurry, like with the NFTs, to roll something out and won't give it the thought and the care that it needs. And so make sure before you do that, you've given thought and care to how this thing is going to look. And then as a complement, so especially with augmented reality technology, that's taking digital elements and putting them in the real world, like Taryn was talking about with that ghost car on NASCAR. That's a great use of it, but as a complementary thing. It doesn't replace NASCAR. It doesn't replace the football game or the basketball game that's going on. It needs to be used as a complementary piece to go along with those. Like, it gives me the stats I want, or it gives me the information I want, or it gives me the ghost car, or it gives me those kind of things to be a complement to make the experience better, not to become something in place of that experience. And I think people with technology a long time have tried to, like, say, now technology is a star. And really the best thing about technology and sport is they're a symbiotic relationship. They work together, technology coming alongside to enhance the sporting event, not to replace it.
So a little bit different. I know we're on a panel specifically about technology in sports, but NASCAR is really unique in that we have a typically much older fan base. Our average age skews much older than all of the other major sports in the country. And we are also simultaneously trying to recruit a younger, more diverse audience to the sport. So how do you walk that line between developing content and wanting people to watch a sport who are watching it on their phones, consuming media through social media platforms, and not watching sport in traditional ways, versus making sure that the fan base that made the sport what it is still feels wanted and welcome. So we are switching to almost an exclusively digital method of doing everything, from ticket buying to actually scanning your tickets at the gate. Like, people who print their tickets, it's much harder to scan than it is with the app. So we don't have as many people in the sales office anymore because everything is done digitally. So we are trying to figure out how to have people that our older fan base can still call and say, how do I do this? I don't know how to do this. Because yeah, you can ask your kids or you can ask your grandkids, but we all have parents who are not super tech savvy, and it gets really annoying to constantly feel like you have to explain how to do something over and over and over again. So still being there to be a resource for our older fan base when they need that personal touch that you do frequently lose with the convenience of digital, but then making it so that the newer fans and the younger fans are getting information in the way that makes the most sense for them and is the most efficient and effective. So we do kind of have to walk it back a little bit in the right applications, and it's just a matter of looking at how you balance that. So that's really what we need to, at least in our sport, that is really unique to having such an older fan base. But that's something we really need to focus on prioritizing.
It's such an important thing, because I even think about it with social channels. I mean, Facebook is something that still should not be neglected. It's used by the most people, I think, in the world. It's some of our top performing content in sports still happens on Facebook, and it's not sexy. Nobody really likes to go there, but like, the numbers keep coming back and they're still really strong, and you can't forget the whole part of your audience, and you still need to serve that side. I mean, you even think about QR codes, right? Like, QR codes did not start in the pandemic. They had been around for a long, long time. Nobody wanted to use them. And then the pandemic came, and there was an actual like solution that was built in. And that's the big thing about technology, is it might be flashy, you might have AI or Web3, but what is the solution? How is it going to help the fans is the key to kind of driving it home. So QR codes finally had a purpose coming out of the pandemic. They took off, and now you literally can't stop seeing them, almost too much to an extent.
You both make a great point too about like not forgetting fans, and I think that's why I really focus on like customization and things like that, because my dad doesn't have to watch the SpongeBob broadcast. He can watch his traditional broadcast. And just like with the NASCAR fan, you still have those traditional media. That's why I think technology should come alongside rather than create a whole new thing. And so if I want to watch Pat McAfee do a college football game, I can do that, but not everybody has to do that, right? And so choosing those things and being able to do that, I think both of you have done a really nice job touching on that, like with the different options and not forgetting about our traditional fan, especially.
Okay. So this is for all of you. So from your own personal experiences as a fan, what has been the most interesting use of technology that you have seen when it comes to enhancing the fan experience?
Yeah, I've talked about it a lot today. I think the one thing I'm watching for right now is how things go out in California with the Intuit Dome. They're taking a completely different approach to the fan experience out there with the LA Clippers. Literally, they have something called the Wall, which will be 5,000 seats that are like almost straight up on one side of the court where the opponent is shooting, to create almost that college-like feel to an NBA game. They're bringing seats closer. They've got a Jumbotron where you can see it from every single angle. Like, they have thought through every single aspect of like creating a great experience. And Steve Ballmer's lucky enough that he's got enough money where it doesn't really matter. He can just try something out that's new. But especially for a team that's not the most popular, like, will that draw people to come out by creating the ultimate experience with technology?
I just think it's cool how we're incorporating just even basic technology like QR codes into your at facility, at venue events, whether it's like fan cam, where you do the QR code and your selfies are up on the big screen, or there's like at minor league baseball games, they love to do the like Napa Cap shuffle or wherever, where they put the ball under a hat and do that. It's just constant engagement outside of what's taking place on field, on the court, on the track, whatever it is. It's more than just the sporting event now. The whole thing has become an experience, a show, something to be involved in. And that's something that 10 years ago really wasn't like that. It was to some degree, but there wasn't as much interactivity. Now that everybody has really high-tech cell phones in their pockets, there's a lot more that you can do. Whether it's if you've got the app downloaded for whatever you're at, it'll light up your phone certain colors if you have it open during certain things. It's just a really unique experience that you can only get if you're at the event rather than just on TV. So I think the way this is kind of silly, but wrestling, I think most people would agree, is really entertainment. It's not so much a sport anymore. And I think more sports are starting to kind of implement that model where it's the whole experience, not just the product that you're watching below your seats. So.
Yeah, so I mean, I obviously love the technology that, you know, can move you through a stadium and can make the things an experience. And I think that is really the in-event technology that's going to make a difference as we get better at those things and as we see what the use cases for those are, even moving people throughout an arena or a stadium, how you want them to move and things like that. I think the other thing, though, is technology comes out of innovation. I think we have to be more innovative in what we consider sports now too, because we've talked about like media fragmentation. People have a million different places they can view media or go to, and so no longer is it just ESPN radio. There's a million different places, and so some of the things we've seen that have been maybe not technology exactly, but the innovation of how we think about them, and some of them executed through technology, through social media or through technology platforms like YouTube, is like what we consider sports. Some of the top boxing matches over the last few years have included like influencers, right? And so like there will be people that are traditionalists who are like, that's not boxing, that's not sport. Well, it's getting watched, it's making money, there are jobs, there are industry. There was a soccer tournament from a YouTube group called Sidemen FC, and they had Mr. Beast play in it. They sold out a 40,000 seat stadium. They had over 2 million concurrent viewers at the same time. Now it's over 150 million views on YouTube. They made a ton so like some people will be like, that's not sport, that's not. They sold out a stadium. They had 2 million viewers happen at the same time. So being open to like these different things that traditionally have been sport for so long and saying, what's the next innovation there, what's the next, and then they're delivered on YouTube, they're delivered on social media, they're promoted through those kind of things. So they're using very much technology outlets, but they're also innovating in like what we consider sport. We've had the same thing with esports, right? And there would be a group of people who are like, oh, that's not sport, but there's a good chance it's going to be in an Olympics soon, right? And so instead of turning our back on these things and saying that I don't consider it sport, or maybe we should see like, well, what's next? Because especially for students, one of the things that's really important for me is I try to think about what the jobs are going to be for them in 5 to 10 years. There was a time where there was no such thing as social media. There was no social media manager. There was no social media jobs. Now there's every single organization, every single university has those jobs. So what's that thing in 5 to 10 years that's going to be there for them?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot today, just throughout the day, about NIL, right? And the great equalizer with NIL. You've got your big football players, they've got a huge audience, but it's really in the content space and being able to create content for potential sponsors. And if you can create great content, you don't need to have a huge following to reach people now. You can have a few thousand people who are following you, but you can still reach tens or hundreds of thousands of people with a single post, the way that social media algorithms are built. So, I mean, the innovation too is also just like, content is king. Anyone can be involved in sports. If you really have that passion, you want to build it up, like you can go out there and build an audience, and you can do it while you're in college or even before to go and get yourself that job as well.
And you also don't have to be great at the sport.
No.
You just have to be knowledgeable about it and create good content. There are lots of people that were high school athletes that tried to make it in college, they weren't great, whatever. But if they have a unique perspective and they can share it in a way that's appealing, then the sky is pretty much the limit to how far they can go within the industry, even if they're not actively playing the sport themselves.
Okay, so now we're going to turn it to the audience for questions.
This is kind of a question for all of you. You guys mentioned like how to balance like not losing old fans but still innovating. Can you go into more detail how you maintain that balance? Because I know specifically with NASCAR, it is one of the bigger struggles right now is appealing, and we have these like viral moments like Atlanta last weekend. But how do you capitalize off of those but don't go too far to where you are alienating your original audience?
I think the fact that we just simply haven't changed our model altogether. You can still print tickets. You can still call to purchase tickets. People still come up to me at the track just because I'm wearing a Talladega polo. They assume that I know everything about everything related to the track. And they'll come up to me and they'll ask me if I know so-and-so, who is their particular sales rep. Chances are I've never laid eyes on that person because most of the sales reps are actually based in Daytona. So I don't know them, but they have relationships with these people. And as long as we still have those people in place, and I don't see a sport that is still run by the family that founded it now 76 years ago, moving away from having access to that in the near future. Now, assuming that NASCAR is still in existence 20 years from now, when most of that fan base is not alive anymore, there is certainly a chance that we move to a fully digital platform for everything. But for the foreseeable future, I think it stays mostly the way it is internally, but then we just utilize social media and the digital platforms to enhance and make better for the people who want to utilize them, want to access media that way, want a experience that they don't have to interact with people. I think a lot of young people now are so used to being on their phones that the idea, and not on a phone call, the idea of having to call someone is very weird to them. I mean, I'm almost 40 and I still sometimes I'm like, I text this person all the time, but I don't really want to talk on the phone to them. So I think as long as you have access for the older people who want that, and you're utilizing technology as a way to make better and enhance, kind of like the SpongeBob broadcast that Chad was talking about, it just adds to, it doesn't take away from. So as long as that's there, I don't think we'll ever lose that fan base. I mean, they'll probably complain about the racing and say that they're never going to watch another race, and we all know that's a lie. But that helps, I think, kind of walk that line and keep both fan bases happy.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to say we're not marketing to a certain portion of a fan base. I think it's just that each tactic doesn't need to be for everyone. You need to be really purposeful for what you're tapping into. So yeah, you might be using YouTube predominantly to, hit your younger demographic, but you might be using Facebook to hit the older demographic. You might be sending mailers still to hit people who really want physical mail, and other people might want email or SMS communication. So it's understanding that marketing is all these different channels, and you just have to take like a data-focused approach to be purposeful in what you're tapping into.
Yeah, and I look at broadcast a lot because broadcast rights are now the top revenue generator for sport and have been for some time. And I think there's a really good use case. Steve Ballmer came up before. He's heavily involved in investing in technology, owner of the Clippers, and he has a company that he's partial owner called Second Spectrum that I think does a really nice job with this, because Second Spectrum, they have a deal with the NBA, but they also have a deal with Premier League Soccer, and they do broadcast augmented reality. And what they do is they have different choices. They have one that's called a coach mode, where they literally diagram what is happening during a play and give percentages of like shot chart percentage, like Steph Curry makes this many percent during the game. And then they have one called mascot mode, which looks like, for basketball, it looks like NBA Jam. If anybody remembers NBA Jam, like things are catching on fire and things are happening. But they also have traditional broadcast. Like, that's another option. So it's not like you go into these things and you can only see the craziness. Like, you could select and traditional, and you can go in the same broadcast, you can alternate throughout the three. So like, you know what, I'm not feeling this right now, I'll try something else. Or if I'm watching a team that's really important to me, I'm probably watching the traditional broadcast, right? But if I'm watching a game kind of casually, sure, throw in Peyton Manning, throw in all these other people. But like, Second Spectrum is already doing that and giving people real-time choice in games where they can watch the traditional broadcast, so we don't lose those traditional fans who are we're heavily reliant on still. But also, maybe there's a younger group that's like, you know what, I'd be more interested in seeing all these different embellishments and different things going on. And so I think the Second Spectrum is doing a really nice job of kind of balancing those things, and I see a lot of it heading that direction.
Yeah, and then I think about the Los Angeles Chargers, right? The Chargers, one of the best in the content space across all of sports. They have done an outstanding job. They were really one of those first teams that like leaned into memes and really going for the dub and the L and serving that up. And now you see, I think, every sports team do that. That's kind of where they made their money on that. But now they felt the need to really engage with a more X's and O's audience. They felt like they were underserving that. And so one of the ways that you can do that is they literally acquired podcasts. They acquired I think is a YouTuber who breaks down film for the NFL. And so they're bringing that in to their space so they can serve different parts of their audiences. So there's always a way where you can hit different parts, but it's all about being purposeful with like what ways you go about it.
Okay, so are there any apps currently on your radar that are front runners in the fan experience right now? And if so, what are they? What makes them unique and special? And what are they like available for multiple sports or teams? And how could they improve based off of your experience?
I'll start off. Yeah, so some of those apps I've mentioned there, but I think they do a really nice job. One of the things I feel like maybe is still 5 to 10 years off, Apple Vision Pro came out a couple of weeks ago, and the reason it's kind of off in the distance is because it's a heavy price point. I think it's like $3,500 to get in the door and things like that. But one of the nice use cases that they have of it is sport focused, where you can literally have up, if you're into betting, you can have up a betting window with real-time bets while the game's going on. You can have a screen that's so Apple Vision Pro is a headset that you put on, and you can kind of still see your environment. And you can set up as many games as you want around the room. You can set up your social media, your text information with everybody. And so you can kind of have an experience, an all-inclusive experience. And again, that might not answer your question for what's available right now, because I feel like that's still 5 to 10 years down the road. Price point, and then use case, and also people aren't really a big fan of like putting stuff on their head and just leaving it there all the time. It doesn't make for a great social experience. But as they streamline those things, and as they make those things better, I think that's something to watch in the future. But that's a good question. Second Spectrum, their viewing is available via app, and so that would be my answer for that. But I already touched on that, so I wanted to give you a little something different for that.
I'd say the NBA app, far and away, is, I think, the best app in sports. It is a social media network in an app. Literally, you go into it, you've got a stories feature that you can tap into. It feels like you're on Instagram, diving into not just highlights, but also like they've literally broken it down by storylines, by certain players. You can personalize your experience down to the player. So I remember before the All-Star game, I was literally asked, like, yes, I'm a Knicks fan, sad for me, but are there other players that I want to follow? I want to follow Steph Curry. I want to follow Jaylen Brown. So I want to follow certain people, and I can customize it that way. They also do a good job in their app of, they have fan engagement games. So you can, it's like, guess the player based on their career journey, where they went to college and where they played pro. So they have a lot of different ways you can engage with it. NBA ID is built in there. I mean, they've just done a great job of just like pushing you towards having to have an NBA ID account to be able to vote for the All-Star game and vote for different things. So they're building up a profile. They treat it like a social network. They use vertical video. Not a ton of teams are doing that, but the NBA, like, far and away, that's where everybody else needs to get to right now.
So I'd say I'm kind of going to take a little bit of what Chad said about what's not super great, and then a little bit about what Alex said that's great. I'm still going to speak mostly about NASCAR, but NASCAR currently has 2 different apps, and I think combined they give you a really terrific experience. But I think at some point they need to become one app so that you can have a more integrated experience, because the NASCAR app is basically exactly like the ESPN app. It's everything you could possibly imagine about NASCAR, tailored down to the driver or the team or a sponsor, however you want to kind of filter the information that you want. It gives you access to watch the race live. You can also listen to the scanners on it, whether you want to listen to a particular driver, you want to listen to the official channel, or you want to listen to the MRN, the Motor Racing Network broadcast. You have access to all of that, so it gives you another way to consume sport. And then you have the NASCAR Tracks app, which is specific to the tracks themselves, what's happening during race weekend. So they provide together a really comprehensive way to consume information about the sport, but it would be, I think, much easier for fans and consumers if it was just all in one place, where you don't have to download multiple apps, even though they're both free. It's just getting ahead of that issue. You know, phones do run out of storage space at some point. You don't necessarily want to have to toggle between the two during a race, whether you're at it or you're at home. And not everybody has multiple phones or an iPad and an iPhone. They want it all right there. So they're great apps, but would be better, hopefully in a few years, kind of like Apple Vision, they'll take them and just make them one app that gives you everything you need at one place.
And I'll follow up to, and this builds exactly on what you two talked about. Sometimes we need to draw our experience from outside of sport, and I've talked about Disney already, but like there's an app called the My Disney Experience app. Yes. And if you are going to the parks, it is everything you need. It has wait times, it has your pictures, everything in those things, but it also has like geo-fenced interactions. So if you're waiting in line at this specific Toy Story ride, you play a Toy Story game while you're there, and you do different things, and it gives you rewards and stuff within the app. And I think every time I talk to a professional sports team about their app, I tell them, go download that app and mess around with it. My daughters, we went to Disney, but they still play with the app right now because there's other games and different things. So we don't even, one of the things you try to avoid people deleting your app, we don't delete that app. And so like, what are they doing that you can steal for your organization and for your team? And like, how can I make this something that people aren't going to download for game day and then delete immediately after? Like, you're going to keep it here and have it live here. And so sometimes we have to draw our inspiration from outside of sport, and Disney's usually a pretty good place as far as the fan experience goes to draw from. And so I would encourage anybody here, go download that app and play with it and see what's going on and see like what they're doing well.
It's a great app, and funny, a lot of my friends and I will joke when we're bored, just looking up the wait times on rides that we like when we're, 1,500 miles from Disney, just to see what's going on. And kind of to the point that I made earlier, Shop Disney used to be a separate app. They combined into one, so you can purchase your merchandise through the My Disney Experience app. It's all under one thing, so you never have to leave the app to get dining reservations. You can book hotel reservations through it. You can do all of your Genie and Lightning Plus, wait times, literally everything you can imagine. They have anticipated every need that you could possibly have, from when you board the plane to fly to Orlando to when you get back home. They've anticipated every need for people. And I totally agree, Chad, that more sports teams need to be looking at that app and everything that's integrated into it to make the most user-friendly experience, and then something that people use when it's the off season, when they're not watching the sport, when it's not top of mind, when they're 3,000 miles from their favorite facility or their favorite team, whatever it is, they're still constantly utilizing that app because it gives them things that they can benefit from even when they're not on property.
I wanted to ask a little bit about internet latency, particularly regarding live sports. From what we could tell, what we call in our academic world social TV, which is commenting on the live sports that you watch, that peaked about 5 years ago. And part of the reason, at least my hypothesis, is people moved from cable and satellite to streaming services. And instead of the delay between the live sporting event and when you saw it, the delay used to be 4 to 6 seconds. Now they're striving to get inside 40 seconds, and some it's over a minute. So you're not checking social media because it's spoiling the game you're watching. You're not looking at your phone because you might see something that you haven't seen yet. That's limiting everything from that social TV engagement to in-game betting that we want to get to, and all sorts of things there. You can't bet on what they're going to do on second down if they're lining up for a field goal on fourth. How do you see the technology reacting to that? How do we get past that limitation? Because this is one of the areas I feel like tech, most things we've talked about are like, isn't this great? Isn't this new? Isn't this an advancement? But in terms of actually watching live sports as if you were there, we've got a larger delay than we've had in decades. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Very interesting too, because from my personal experience, I have a brother-in-law who cheers for Wake Forest basketball, but he doesn't always watch it like in the same. We're watching on two different devices, and he's streaming it here. He's streaming it in North Carolina. I'm streaming it here, and I will literally text him. If before a big play happens, I'll be like, "Are you watching the game? Where are you at?" So that's a great point, because where are you at? I can't even be like, "What a play," because he's like, "What play are we talking about?" Or, "I can't believe they won." He's like, "Well, the game's still 15 seconds left for me," stuff like that. And so, yeah, that is a unique challenge. And what we talked about with Steve Ballmer's company, Second Spectrum, they're adding these extra elements that even delays it a bit further. And so you're adding on, the AI is pretty fast, but they're adding on these extra graphics which might delay it a bit further. So I think that is a unique challenge that they're going to have to point out. And I guess it becomes even more of a challenge when you start attaching money to it, like gambling, or like, right, how am I supposed to gamble in my sport app if it's refreshing before what's going on there? And so, yeah, I don't have the answer to that one, but that is an interesting pain point that I've experienced in my life as well. I know that they are constantly trying to address those things. So with that Second Spectrum app, they went from like a delay of 2 minutes to now they're down to a delay of like 15 seconds to add on all those extra graphics, but it's still a delay, right? And sport is the last appointment viewing television thing that we're watching live as it's happening, multiple people watching at the same time. So that's definitely a challenge. And maybe if I think of the answer to that, I'll go monetize that.
Be a
I'll go monetize
very wealthy
that.
man for sure. I definitely don't have a solution to that either. I'm not even remotely sure what would make sense in that space. I think as sports betting becomes legalized in more states and more people are betting on it, I think it's going to be more of a priority to try to sync it up better, because I think that will lead to a lot of lost money. I think, unfortunately, I think that's going to be what will be the catalyst to fixing that, but I'm not sure how to fix it. I just think that's going to be what pushes it over the line, that delay is no longer going to be something that they can tolerate. Again, we talked earlier in a panel about whatever we tolerate is kind of where the line gets pushed to. So same thing, once sports betting is so ubiquitous in this country that everyone is doing it, then having that issue of a 15-second delay, you've missed a play, you've missed several points, you've missed a wreck in a race. So much can happen in that time frame that you're losing out on betting and making money. I think that's what will force it to change.
Yeah, I will say I've noticed it more texting friends, but not as much in using social media. Not that it doesn't happen, but I feel like even being on Twitter, it's still the best place to be during a live event, is being on Twitter, seeing all the reactions, seeing everything come out. People might tweet something at a given time, but the highlight might not be out yet. Or, in fact, they actually have said it in advance, and now I'm searching for it. So it's almost, I don't know if it's necessarily worse, but it's something that needs to be addressed. I mean, one I remember, not even in sports, is with Netflix and the Love is Blind live finale. I mean, literally just sitting there waiting for that finale to happen never happened. The Netflix Cup that they just ran with the F1 drivers and the golfers playing in the tournament a little bit ago, that was just okay, but somehow they still secured rights to Monday Night Raw. So I'm really interested to see how Netflix does with live content specifically, because they're the ones that naturally make sense for sports rights, but they haven't really nailed it yet. So they've got a match coming up with Carlos Alcaraz and Djokovic, so hopefully that goes well. But I would say if the quality of the broadcast, if they got big hiccups like that, that's going to be a sports rights issue where you're going to stop seeing streaming services get those opportunities, or they're going to have to pay extremely more just to get them. But so far the latencies, it's bad, but I don't think it's bad enough yet that it's stopping people, but hopefully it gets solved.
And Taryn made a great point about the money, like the money driving it, and with the gambling. Like, I live in Georgia. It's not legal to sports gamble in Georgia. So they have their app set up. If somebody who comes from another state where it's legal, it's geofenced. They cannot do it. They cannot use that app. And so maybe if they're going to have you able to, I could see them in the future, if they're going to have you live sports gambling on an event, like maybe they're going to have to come up with some sort of geofence that, like, while you're gambling, you cannot be accessing information. Now, how you control that, I don't know. But again, once there's big money people involved, those people are going to be in the room trying to figure it out. But that's a great point about, like, they're going to try to figure it out because there's a lot of money riding on it.
And this will be our last question from the audience.
You were talking earlier about how, like, technology that becomes the most integrated into society actually solves a problem and isn't just tech for fun. And we kind of touched on this with the streaming lag and latency with that. But what is currently the biggest problem in each of y'all's industry that you hope to see solved within the next year, whether on the fan experience side or in the actual sports side?
I mean, going to games right now, I think the worst part about going to a live game is the anxiety you get about how I'm getting home. It's, okay, how the heck am I making sure that I get home on time? Do I have to wait in a long line? Is the train going to be packed? Like, what am I going to do? And I have to leave, like, a good amount before the end of the game, unless it's just like this iconic game where it's just like, all right, sunk cost, we'll deal with it later. But that's, in terms of the fan experience, like, how can you make that better through technology? Is there a way that you can see certain directions that make it easier? Can you use technology to direct people out in a certain way? It's just, that's like one of the things that I hate about going to live sports, and I love going to live sporting events.
That's not a problem I would have thought about, but that is definitely an issue. My sister and I actually went to Atlanta Motor Speedway this past weekend, and we left before the end because the last time I went 2 years ago, it took us 2.5 hours to get out of the parking lot, and it ruined the entire experience of the race because it was so frustrating. And I mean, I think there's probably a way that technology can help to solve that. But I mean, theoretically, right now, we have all of the maps with all of the back roads in our pockets right now. But if everybody is utilizing them, is it really solving the problem? So I think NASCAR as a whole, a lot of the problems are not necessarily things that technology can fix. But I think if you can take just the fan experience as a whole that may or may not be problematic and just make it better and try to think of, you know, can I just provide all of the information possible, whether it is directions and alternate routes and how do you get your tickets or what to do if you have issues downloading something, how do you troubleshoot the problems. I think it's just little fan enhancements through whatever technology you're already using, just anything you can do to make it better. And you know, you can anticipate some problems in advance very easily. There are some problems that you literally don't know until you experience them firsthand. But then it's a matter of saying, okay, I experienced this firsthand. How do we immediately implement something to fix it? So prioritizing the recognition that there's a problem, acknowledging that it is actually a problem, and then saying, okay, right now that's the priority to fix it. So as long as it's not where, you know, whether it's a team or a league or a venue or whatever it is, saying, okay, we'll get to that later, or we'll wait until there's multiple problems to fix it. I think as long as every time you attend an event of any sort, even if you're a baseball season ticket holder, so you're going to tons of games, I think if every time you go, one little thing is better, that builds on itself over and over and over again. Again, when my sister and I were in Atlanta this past weekend, I commented to her that when I was there 2 years ago, the concession stand lines were forever long. This time there were no lines. It was completely different, but the crowd was bigger this time. So they figured it out. They made efficient changes to make things better for the fans. So if they're little, but they're noticeable, I think just making small changes shows that whoever is the decision maker is paying attention to what the fans want and need and expect and frankly are entitled to. That goes really, really far.
And for me, like, I'll mention a specific pain point of something I'm working on with some colleagues right now, with some professional sports organizations with technology, and I talked about it earlier, chat bots. And one of the issues is we're all familiar with ChatGPT, what it can do, what it can give you. But if you are a sport organization and everything that's being said from that chatbot represents you, you don't want to just turn it loose on large language models and ChatGPT because you don't know what it's going to say to you. And so one of the issues that we're dealing with these organizations is how do we make it as smart and as helpful and as interactive as possible without having a big PR disaster because somebody queries something they think is funny and it says something on behalf of the New York Yankees, right? And then all of a sudden, like, oh, look what this chatbot did. So trying to figure out how to make these chatbots or this artificial intelligence as smart as possible while not giving it all of the world's information to be able to respond to and having a repository of information. And I think there's probably, I love teaching my innovation and technology class because inevitably a student comes up with an answer that I've never thought of before that is better than mine, and I'm like, oh, that's great. And so I think that those answers are out there, but those are some of the things we're working on is like, with this new technology, how do we use it in the most responsible way, caring about traditional fans, caring about those kind of things, and how do we unleash it in the most responsible way and not just go, here it is, and let it go, especially since it's going to represent a lot of what people in the sport organizations do.
So for a quick closing question to the three of you, what do you believe is a trend that we should keep an eye out on when it comes to technological advances in the fan experience?
Yeah, for me it's hitting the younger fans. How do we create fans who are, let's call it 16 and under? They're following their favorite athletes, maybe not their favorite teams, and a lot of teams are just trying to meet fans where they are. So you're seeing a lot more organizations go into Roblox. You're trying to see them go into Fortnite. The Buffalo Sabres created a graphic novel series. I think it's Real Madrid, or it was La Liga, created their own game, targeted towards kids, and even the Canucks have created their own like animated series, cartoon series, just aimed at kids, because ultimately with kids, if you can get them to their first game, they're fans for life. So something when I was with the White Sox that they had been doing before I got there is they had a whole kind of little league set up where every single team was the White Sox except with different uniforms. So all the fans and all the parents were saying, let's go White Sox, let's go White Sox, and building that fandom, and then also just like building that up and getting their parents to take them to games.
In a similar vein, I think accessibility just as a whole in every form or fashion, being in more social media platforms, having an app that anybody can download, having your athletes be more obviously in control of their own social media personas, where it's more relatable. You can tell that it's not a PR person. I think that makes you feel more connected to them. It doesn't feel like there's so many barriers there. So I feel like accessibility as a whole across every sport has become a trend, but I don't think it's something that will go away like most typical trends do. Like for instance, iRacing is a very, very expensive video game, but it's also utilized by teams with a full simulator rig set up, a chair that moves to actually conform to the lines of the track. It's expensive for the teams, the versions that they have, but if you want to own it at home and play, you can. But if you have an Apple computer, you cannot use it. It only works on a PC, so you've got to spend more money to buy another option to play this game on. Then you have to pay to download every single track on the game. It's really, really cost prohibitive for the normal person to play. However, next year, they've already signed a deal to put out a console game through iRacing that will be available on multiple platforms, Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, and then there's one other that I'm forgetting right now. But it's that type of accessibility. It's like, we hear you, we know you want to play this, we know you can't afford it. Let's figure out a way that everybody wins. Because now more people are going to buy it, they're going to make more money. It's not like they're losing money. They've just opened up the accessibility to so many more people. So it's a trend, but I don't think it's one that we're ever really going to see go away.
Yeah, and I think mine's pretty brief. I think the through line here is personalization and immersion. Like when people are doing that thing that you want them to do in sport, they're immersed in it, they're involved in it, they're focused on it rather than distracted from it. And personalized experiences we talked through this entire thing is like, how can we make, again, we go to the same event, we have completely different experiences, and how can we make that better?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.